Hey, welcome back and Happy New Year! Today we're going to be looking at Demons episode 23 of season 4. Debuting May 11th, 1997, Demons follows a bloodied and confused Moulder as he may be responsible for a couple murders. Okay, first off, flash warning throughout this episode, because I guess the producers figured they should try and give as many people seizures as they can. Moulder's having some trippy dreams about his parents arguing over something, but luckily it was all just a horrible nightmare. This shirt generally doesn't have blood on it. Since Moulder's in a strange room and has no idea what's going on, his first inclination is to call Scully.
Rhode Island.
What are you doing there?
I don't know. There's blood all over me.
Now, I'm not a cartographer, but Moulder is apparently in Providence, Rhode Island. He calls Scully at 4:50 in the morning while she's in Washington, D.C. Somehow, Scully manages to arrive at Moulder's motel at 6:15 a.m. So are we to assume she drove 400 plus miles in an hour? Clearly she took time to get dressed and do her hair and makeup, so it's not like she was in a major rush. Anyways, Scully barges into his motel room to find Moulder enjoying a nice warm shower. Avert your eyes, young lady. Moulder's not doing so hot, but luckily, as we all know, Scully is a medical doctor, so he's in good hands.
I was in my apartment. I'll talk to you on the phone.
It was Friday.
I've been here since Friday.
Moulder has no memory as to what happened over the weekend. He doesn't even remember calling Scully from the motel room, which this episode claims was less than 2 hours ago. Now, if this shirt Scully just picked up isn't covered in Moulder's blood, then I'm not sure handling it without gloves is the smartest move. She could be contaminating evidence. Scully finds Moulder's gun, which is missing 2 rounds, so he clearly fired at something. But again, Moulder has no memory of firing his weapon. I think Scully handling firearms is my kink. Scully suggests that Moulder get his noggin looked at because what he just experienced could be very serious. Meanwhile, Moulder discovers a key with the name Amy on it and has no idea what it's for. He better not be cheating on Scully. Scully checks out the car Moulder drove to the motel, which is covered in blood and not even Moulder's car. So just what is going on?
Car is registered under a David Cassandra. The address is right here in Providence.
Who's Amy?
Wait, who's David Cassandra? Meanwhile, some guy is cutting himself out of photos, I guess. I have no idea who he is, but why is his head bleeding?
Is this David Cassandra's house?
This is David and Amy's house.
And who are you?
I'm the housekeeper. Who are you?
Oh, so Amy and David are married. I still don't know who they are. But why does the housekeeper give Moulder and Scully so much sass? Moulder gets triggered by a painting, probably impressed by the smooth brushstrokes. He actually recognizes the house, which turns out to be the house that Amy grew up in. She must really like this house too, because it seems to be the only thing she paints. Moulder believes he's been there before, and luckily it's only 20 miles away, so it's off to the mystery house they go. For a house that looks to be abandoned, there sure seems to be a lot of car traffic coming in and out of here. Moulder starts tripping out again, and well, look who it is. Cigarette smoking man must be behind this whole thing. Moulder and Scully finally decide to enter the house. But guys, could we do something about that boom mic shadow?
Moulder?
Also, can someone explain what that shadow was? The agents split up to check the house out, and when Scully calls for Moulder, something or someone moves, revealing light. Never mind that bit of spookiness because I think we found Amy. Both Amy and David are found dead, each taken out with a gunshot. Wait, 2 people? 2 missing rounds from Moulder's magazine? It's not looking good for Moulder.
I told him about your condition. You don't have to speak to them if you don't want to.
You mean not without my attorney present?
I love how he's in the middle of a murder investigation and he still acts like a goof. The detective comes over yammering, asking basic cop questions like who is your daddy and what does he do? But before he can really get into the meat of the investigation, Scully tells the man Moulder is going to see a doctor first. In the meantime, Scully's going to perform an autopsy on the bodies to hopefully find something that can clear Moulder's name. It's nice to see Colonel Budahas made a full recovery after being abducted, killed by the bounty hunter, and having his identity stolen. Scully finds a strange hole in Amy's head and tells the medical examiner to check it out because there's some funny business afoot.
What's in the bag?
It isn't your gun, which in our preliminary forensics analysis seems to be the murder weapon.
Moulder really is up shit creek without a paddle. All evidence points to him being responsible for the murder, and I just see no way of him getting out of it.
So I went down to the hospital to go over Agent Moulder's medical charts and his blood work, and there are traces of the same drug in his system.
Just as Moulder is about to be put away, Scully comes in with a Hail Mary that just might save his ass. Amy was found with a hallucinogen in her system, and Moulder's blood samples showed that he had the same in his. This might explain why Moulder has no memory of the events, but what's with Moulder being drugged all the time?
I was drugged.
The real question is how and why this drug was in his system in the first place. Well, regardless, Moulder gets hauled off anyways. But you don't think Scully's just gonna stop here, do you? Hey, isn't that the guy that was cutting his own face out of the photos? The police should really screen on who they hire. What do you think he's gonna do with that gun? Scully tells someone she's a medical doctor.
I'm a doctor. Somebody call the paramedics.
The cop is definitely dead, but he has the same mark as Amy. Scully and the detective enter his apartment and it's pretty obvious that he wasn't well. Apparently he had been given a desk job after going a little loopy ranting about UFOs. When the detective tells Scully that the officer started speaking about aliens, she sort of looks away like, oh, that's weird, I have no idea what that's like. Oh, Abductee Digest, I think I have that issue. It's very lucky that there happens to be a magazine about alien abductees with Amy right on the front. Both Amy and the officer had the same holes in their head, so there's definitely something weird going on. In the meantime, Moulder is having more seizure-inducing dreams about his parents and the cigarette-smoking man. I really hope there isn't a weird revelation that changes the fabric of the entire show. The following morning, Scully returns to the jail and finds Moulder, who was up all night screaming his damn head off.
I heard you didn't get much sleep.
I didn't kill those people, Scully.
I know that.
According to forensic evidence, the blood splatter on Moulder's shirt doesn't match with the gunshot wounds found on David and Amy. So while it is their blood, it seems more likely that David and Amy had a murder-suicide pact and Moulder maybe tried to save them or something. Both Amy and the police officer were getting psychiatric treatment from the same center, and both seem to be suffering from Waxman-Geschwin syndrome, which I guess induces vivid dreams about the past. Scully brings Moulder to the office of the psychologist that treated Amy, and would you look at that? It's Moulder's car! Though it looks like it's been sitting there for months, not days. Can I also briefly point out Scully's horrendous parking job? Was she blindfolded when parking? Anyways, the agents speak to Dr. Goldstein, the psychologist that was treating Amy.
Please, sit down.
All the doc does is offer the agents a seat, and Scully just looks at him like, pfft, I'm not sitting down. Doc Goldstein is kind of sad over what happened to his former patients, but I'd say he's more so trying to cover his tracks for what he did. He's had 2 patients treated with what he calls an aggressive treatment, and both of them have taken their own lives. I'd say this makes him somewhat responsible, no? Scully really starts to grill this guy, accusing him of ignoring Amy's Waxman-Geschwin syndrome, and she really does not like this man.
I think that you were treated by him, and I think that your blackouts, these seizures, are a result of that.
Moulder has yet another seizure, and I wonder what it could all mean. I love how little she is next to him. And despite being so little, she basically tells him, you ain't doing shit until we get this taken care of. But does Moulder listen to her? Hell no. He's convinced he's close to discovering the truth about what happened the night his sister was abducted, and he's gonna go pay his mother a visit. Scully doesn't let him go alone because she still thinks he's a danger to himself. Every single time Moulder's mother sees her son, she's always so happy, but he only seems to visit her when he needs to dredge up some horrible secrets from the past. I would say I feel sorry for her, but it's kind of her fault.
How dare you come here and accuse me?
Who is my father?
What do you want? To kill him again?
Ooh, now things are getting spicy. Moulder's little flashbacks has him questioning whether his father is actually his father. Seems Moulder may have caught on to the fact that his mother may have stepped out on his father, which really shouldn't come as a surprise because it was heavily implied that something was going on between the two in the season 3 finale, Talita Kumi. Moulder starts bleeding from his forehead like the police officer earlier, and then just abandons poor Scully, who now has to find a ride home. He makes his way back to the psychologist, Dr. Goldstein, and tells the doctor to finish what they started, which was a weird procedure that involves drilling a hole in Moulder's head. But what happened to good old hypnotic regression therapy? This looks like the worst VR game ever made. You know, the procedure seems to be working as is. Do we really need the drill?
Dr. Charles Goldstein? Dr. Goldstein, you're under arrest. Please keep your hands where they are.
The police arrive because I guess Scully tipped them off, but they're a little too late. Moulder was just given his frontal lobotomy and now he's gone. Whose car did Scully just pull up in? I think they drove to Mulder's mother's house in Scully's car, but she had the keys. So how did Moulder get the keys and drive off? Maybe Scully left the keys in the car, but I can't see her doing something that dumb. Also, Mulder's car was still in the parking lot at the psychologist's office. Either she took Mulder's mom's car or she got another rental. Scully stops the doctor before the police can haul him off because she needs to know where Moulder is. If we've learned anything, this procedure tends to have deadly after effects, so she needs to find him ASAP. The doc doesn't really help, but he does spark something in Scully that leads her to the Moulder family summer home. The same summer home Moulder destroyed looking for Mr. Stabby.
Moulder?
Leave me alone, Scully.
Moulder's a bit out of his mind. Everything he's seeing is likely because of the experiment, but he is under the effects of a hallucinogen, so is any of it actually real? Well, it's real enough for Moulder, who pulls a gun on Scully. I think these two have pulled guns on each other more than they have criminals. Scully is so damn lucky, but so is Moulder. If it hadn't been for her, he may have done something really stupid.
This reminds me of the time you tried to drill a hole through your head. Remember that?
That would have worked if you hadn't stopped me.
Demons is an interesting mythology-focused episode. It sort of feels like the writers just threw out that Moulder was having weird seizures, since this season has been largely focused on Scully's cancer. We can't just have one character with a horrible health scare, we need both. The first half of the episode, when you really don't know what's going on, I think is more interesting. Moulder's sort of gone off the deep end, and we really don't know if he did what he's being accused of. I mean, it's the X-Files. This isn't the first time Moulder's been under the influence of some kind of hallucinogen, but if Moulder had killed those people, could he have been charged? I'm no law expert, but I'm sure someone might have the answer. The second half, I think, loses a bit of steam, though the revelation that Moulder's father might not be his father is kind of interesting, even if I never really did like the idea that Cigarette Smoking Man is his real father.
Spoilers.
Demons was written by R.W. Goodwin, his first and only writing gig on The X-Files. He has, however, been with The X-Files from the very beginning, first starting off as a co-executive producer, then in Season 4 moving up to executive producer, where he'll stay until the end of Season 5. Up to this point in the series, Goodwin has only been the second non-writer to pen an episode of the show, with the first being special effects supervisor Matt Beck, who wrote the episode Wet Wired. What I find funny is Wet Wired and Demons both have one of the agents losing their cool, which I'm sure wasn't intentional. The idea for Demons began early during Season 4. Goodwin had a vision where he pictured Moulder in a strange place with no recollection of how he got there or why. He started to flesh the idea out more and handed it off to Chris Carter, who was in need of scripts. Chris liked the idea and signed off on it, which surprised Goodwin a bit because he wasn't expecting Chris to like it. If Chris will sign off on a script about killer cats, he'll sign off on anything. Since Goodwin still had his producer job he had to do, he spent all of his free time after work for the next 6 weeks hammering out a script. The meat of Goodwin's story was influenced by the book An Anthropologist on Mars, a book of medical case histories written by neurologist Oliver Sacks. One of the case studies in the book, titled The Landscape of Dreams, followed Italian artist Franco Magnani, whose uncanny ability to remember every sight and sound from his childhood has been the subject of much discussion. Franco's ability has been attributed to Waxman-Gershwin syndrome, and the paintings of his childhood home, which have been done entirely from memory, have been the main focus of many art exhibitions. The episode's version of Waxman-Gershwin was a bit different than the actual condition. Here it could be induced using drugs, flashing lights, or drilling a hole into someone's head. The glasses Moulder wears at one point were based off this new age brain stimulator that Goodwin bought for his family. This device apparently freaked his young daughter out and caused his wife to lose several days of sleep. Also, his wife is Sheila Larkin, the actress who plays Scully's mom. The main focus of the story was to help flesh out more of Cigarette Smoking Man's past and his connection to Moulder's parents and the abduction of his sister. Chris Owens would return to play young CSM after playing him in the episode Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. Chris Carter felt Demons was the beginning of what he called the greater conspiracy, which is kind of vague, and I'm pretty sure he said that same thing several times throughout the series so far. While Goodwin was proud of what he accomplished with Demons, his time as a writer would be short-lived. The entire experience was too much of a strain on his family, and Goodwin recounted, "Mostly what I remember was taking everybody up to Whistler, the ski resort north of Vancouver, for a 3-day vacation to celebrate my son's 16th birthday. My wife and kids skied and played and all stayed in one condo. I stayed in a condo right next to them and spent the entire time writing. Goodwin would eventually leave the show at the end of the 5th season. Not because he didn't want to move to Los Angeles when the show would shift production there, but more so because he just wanted to do something different and was a little burnt out from the non-stop grind. There's apparently a director's cut of the episode floating around out there. I've never seen it, but it's fan-made using alternate takes and some deleted scenes. I've read that it's better than the actual episode, but I was unable to find it and I have doubts that it even exists.
I think you're right.
Demons currently sits at 7.8 on IMDb, and while I like it, I think it stumbles a bit in the second half, so I'm looking at maybe a 7. Up next, we have the season finale, as Moulder does all he can to find a discovery in Canada that may prove the existence of aliens, and an ending that caused a bit of an uproar in the episode Gethsemane. So what do you think of Demons? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you have a great 2025 and stay spooky.
Fox May Eve ends Sunday.
There's blood all over me.
Are you hurt, Moulder?
I don't think it's my blood.
The final countdown continues
There's a gunshot wound to her heart.
I don't remember that.
with an episode so shocking
What did you do to him?
you can't miss it.
Put down the gun.
Shut up! An all-new X-Files, Sunday at 9, 8 Central on Fox.